Welcome to Shade and the City. It's your girl Treese here, and I am back for Beyond the Gate Season 1, Episode 89. This was today, well, Monday's episode, because it's now Tuesday. But yeah, it was interesting. A lot more than what Friday gave. However, Samantha really irked my nerves. Okay. I'm sure y'all probably a lot of y'all might have felt the same way. But if you have not already on my BTG Shade Squad, please make sure you go hit that like button. Um, if you haven't already and you're new to the crew, you liking the vibe, come on ahead and join us over here. It's a whole community. Go ahead and subscribe. And I apologize, guys. I don't know if you noticed I was kind of coughing in the video earlier, and I'm definitely something is hitting me. I'm definitely coming down with something. So I'm trying to get ahead of it and take all the things and whatever. But if it sound a little scratchy or I apologize in advance. But that's why that's why I don't do big gatherings no more. But that's a sidebar. But yeah, y'all. So let's get into it and let's get shady. So we know where we left off last episode. Samantha was in the park with KKK Kenny, and Martin happens to spot them. So he rushes over and he punches KKK Kenny in the face. He said, "Bow, bow, bow, bow." You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all my Sexy Red fans. And so Samantha is shocked by her father's actions and tells him that he ain't do nothing. And so KKK Kenny concurs and say, "Yeah," and tells Martin that now you done messed up. You done assaulted me in broad daylight in front of a witness. And Martin was like, "I don't give a damn." But Samantha asked Martin, "Well, do you know him, Dad?" And I was so annoyed. I said, "Samantha, listen." Martin had to tell her to go back to the car. I don't know how many times, and that girl was not listening. So Samantha and Martin finally make it home, and she's apologizing for talking to KKK Kenny. And Martin tries to explain that Kenny was using her to get to him, and that's why he's trying so hard to keep her and Tyrell safe. So Samantha asked him, "Well, what's really going on?" And she's like, "Is that the same guy Tyrell was playing chess with?" And Martin confirms that, yeah, it is. And that's why I didn't want you let your little unruly ass out the house, because you don't listen. And so, and you know what? I ain't even gonna hold you. Now, Samantha said it later on in the episode, but literally, as I put on my thumbnail, what happened to stranger danger, man? Where was all that awareness that you were supposed to have? These kids think they know every damn thing. And I can only say that because I got one. Okay. And he's only 6. So I can only imagine when he's Samantha's age. Okay. Or Tyrell's age. So Martin is trying to explain to Samantha that, KKK Kenny is dangerous. And Samantha is still, "But why? But why, Dad? Can you tell me?" Samantha keeps asking Martin, "Well, what's wrong with KKK Kenny?" And so Martin explains he's been threatening their family, and I ain't gonna go no deeper into it. Stop asking questions and listen. So Smitty walks in and Samantha snitches on Martin, and Dad is refusing to talk to me. And so Smitty asks him, "Well, what's happening, Martin? Okay, you've been doing a lot." Martin says, "Smitty, I ain't gonna get into the shit with you. You already know I've been avoiding talking to you in the first place." So Smitty tells him after what happened with Tyrell the night before, Martin needs to realize that the problem is a little too big for for him to handle on his own. And he wants Martin to talk, but Martin asks if, I'm just so busy. We got so much work to do. And so do you, Smitty. Nobody seemed like they were working. Is it me? He wasn't working before Samantha left. And as far as I know, Smitty won't, but whatever. They don't punch my clock. So let me shut up. So Smitty says, I ain't going nowhere until you tell me what's going on. And Martin claims I ain't got time to explain what's going on, but Smitty said, make time, mother. All right. And so said, look, Martin said, okay, we can talk when I get home later on and when we're alone. And so Samantha's like, stop shutting me out. I want to know what's going on. And I was like, oh my God, send that girl to her room before I do. Jesus. That girl was getting on my nerves. And I collectively saw on X and Blue Sky today, I wasn't the only one that felt the same way. At this point, I think the best suggestion that I've seen overall today is that Smitty leave with the kids. And actually, I said he shouldn't leave with the kids. He need to leave them damn smart ass kids there and let Martin learn how to be a parent, because he ain't never with them damn kids. But the general consensus online when I was watching today is that they'd like to see Smitty leave with the kids, and then there's a time jump. And so when they come back, Samantha's older, because nobody wants this. And I'm sure she's a sweet girl, lovely, but I think her being an annoying teenager doesn't work with her look, if that makes sense. And I think it makes it more annoying to us because she's not a kid, even though we know she's playing one. Does that make sense? Am I making sense to y'all? Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? But anyway, so Samantha goes on about how you promised us that we would never be alone when you adopted us. And when you hit KKK Kenny, I never felt more alone. And I was like, no, you should have felt, if anything, protected, because you didn't know what that man was capable of. The young people, man, the young people. I get it. Okay. Smitty is shocked. He's like, you done hit somebody? What the hell is going on? And so Martin says, look, I'll explain when I get back. But Smitty stands in the way of the door and asks, is this more important than us? And then they go back and forth on whether they, do you trust me? Yeah, I trust you. But well, I need you to talk to me. Well, I ain't going to do that right now. So Martin tells Smitty, lock the doors, keep Tyrell and Samantha in the house. And so Smitty mentions that, you know what? The police is already watching the house. What you talking about? So Martin said, oh, so you know about that? Ooh. Okay. And he said, well, I'll tell you what's going on. I promise I'm going to tell you what's going on. Just, when I get back. And so Smitty said, look, it's good he's not the type to give ultimatums, because if he walks out that door, don't come back. And I wish he really would have given him that ultimatum. Stand on business, Smitty. But no shade, that's probably Martin's house. I mean, maybe Smitty might be able to get a portion of it, but I wouldn't doubt that house was bought with Dupree money. So I mean, I don't know. They do seem to like Smitty more than they like your ass. So maybe they would let him stay in it, but I don't know. And so Martin says, look, I want to come back here and I want you here with me. And just please, he just begs Smitty, please let me handle this. And I said, Lord. So Haley comes home lying to Bill about her follow-up appointment, how the doctor said the baby was healthy and the cramping was brought on by stress. And so Bill said, good, so stay your ass away from Danny, because you the one that took your ass over there. Now, the bell rings and Bill tells Haley, look, yeah, no shade, but I kind of need you to kick rocks. Vernon's at the door, right? So Vernon walks in asking Bill, who you think you are summoning me? Do you not realize I'm that guy, not you? Okay, I do that. I do the shot calling around here. So Haley asked Vernon if everything's okay and if he's there because it deals with Danny. And I was like, that's none of your business. Scurry along, Haley. Please go somewhere. Feed that ghost baby. Okay, feed that ghost baby. So Vernon tells her, I don't know. Bill's the one that called the meeting. So Bill tells her, you know what? It's a long-standing legal matter, and basically Vernon. And so Vernon said, yeah. So could you give us some privacy? So Haley excuses herself, claiming she's gonna go into town to find out what she's craving. Okay. Bill tells Vernon, Randy Blewett and KKK Kenny is still in town. And so Vernon tells him, well, save your apologies and fix it before Martin finds out. Bill lets him know that it's being handled. However, we need to stop this because KK Kenny has made contact with Tyrell. And so Vernon now realizes that Martin is aware that KK Kenny is still in town. And Bill tells him it's a ticking time bomb and that Randy told KKK Kenny he would never get his hands on that cash. So Vernon's confused because he was like, I was at the meeting. So what happened between then and now? And I think I said that to you. Well, I ain't gonna skip ahead. We'll get there. But anyway, um, so he said I was at the meeting and the plan was to pay him off so he'll go away. Bill reminds him we did that once and he came back. So he says that he and Joey agreed that they need a more permanent solution to avoid any future problems. So Vernon tells Bill, I'm hoping that I'm misunderstanding what you're saying because the plan sounded like y'all was going to unalive KKK Kenny. And Bill confirms that, yeah, Joey thinks their world would be a better place if KKK Kenny wasn't in it. Okay. And of course, Vernon is, his flabber is gasted, right? Um, and he's appalled that Bill was signed off on an unaliving plot and makes it clear that, I never asked you for this. And so Bill blames Vernon for, he said, you're the one that made me the way I am, because I've had to swallow all y'all sins. And I said, well, so you could sleep at night and hold on to your illusion of respectability. I think we either I mentioned it in a recap or either last members only, but I think I mentioned that I didn't think Vernon was down. I don't think he knew about Joey and Bill's plot to take Randy out because I don't think he would have ever co-signed that. And so this episode just reconfirmed what I was already feeling, that yeah, Vernon wasn't co-signing it. He's all Mr. Nonviolence. He didn't march with Dr. King. That's not who he is. You know what I'm saying? He said, look, I carried the weight so you didn't have to. And now you want to act disgusted and as if you had no idea. And so Vernon says, look, I draw the line in unaliving. Okay. That's where I stop. So Bill said, look, the task wasn't just handed over. It was forced on me with threats of my downfall if I didn't follow through. And that's true. And Vernon says, look, he trusted and hoped that there were lines that Bill would never cross and tells him that, you could have called me. And Bill reminds him, I did come to you and you made it clear that after we were no longer related, that you weren't taking no for an answer. So Bill, and he tells him that I'm not about to argue with Joey, because he doesn't see any other way out of this mess. And so Vernon said, look, I'm happy Randy didn't complete the job and feels like, the universe is protecting them. And so Bill wants to know, well, what is your plan, Vernon? And Vernon thinks that everyone has a price. And so he instructs Bill to call Joey's squad off and he's going to call his accountant and dips. So I said, well, and then for once, and I literally said this on both platforms, if Ashley could just be here to read Haley down and check her, she can stay. She can stay. Okay. I'll stop fighting it. She can stay. So we see Jacob, Ashley run into Jacob down at Orphan Genius, and she lets him know that she's been a complete mess. So Jacob apologizes. He's like, my bad for not reaching out. And Ashley said, no, I understand. When couples break up, people take sides. And then she walks away. And I was like, that's not guilt tripping him at all. So Jacob follows her and tells her, look, that's not the case. I just been busy with work. But I just thought if I ignored the situation, you and Derek would be back together by now. And so Ashley tells her, Jacob, that nah, your boy Derek was out with Shanice the other night. And of course, Jacob is like, what the heck, Shanice? That don't even seem like that's Derek type. And he said, and I'm just surprised because I was expecting you to make the first move to, move on. And Ashley reveals that, yeah, I actually saw him with Shanice when I was out with Andre. And then I was wondering why Jacob didn't take his opportunity to be like, I told you so. Well, maybe not to her, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that was his aha moment. Like, oh yeah, I was right. Y'all were feeling each other this whole time. Ashley reveals that, but she's like, you know what? It's a good thing that we're moving on, because one of us is clearly holding on to something that wasn't there. So Ashley is still with Jacob when Haley walks in and she tells him that, she knows someone is lying and my notes say Haley, but doesn't understand why they're lying about it. And so Jacob goes through all these reasons or scenarios why someone would lie. And Ashley thinks that the motive could be money. And so Jacob explains to her from his experience, the lie starts as a snowball. You have to be able to keep it up or it'll eventually become an avalanche. Chelsea is, because Allison was there. And so Chelsea says, look, down at the Uptown. And so Chelsea tells her, look, I hope you're not following me because, I got the police on speed dial. Allison tells her, oh, you always had such a dry sense of humor, Chelsea. I love that about you. I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, while we were wrapped up in each other's I said eyes, while we were wrapped up in each other's arms all night. Do you remember that, Chelsea? Do you remember? Okay. When we fell in love, we were young and innocent then. Sorry. So then Chelsea said, nah, girl, I don't remember none of that. Allison decides to tell Madison, Chelsea's mind was always going to the most amazing places when they were together. But why would I be following you, Chelsea? Why would I do that with my crazy ass eyes? My eyes are getting are hurting from holding them open this wide. I'm sorry, y'all. She said, I'm just here because the food is good. It ain't nowhere else to go. And I think I said that last recap. Didn't I say that? Well, she ain't say ain't nowhere else to go, but the food is good. So is Offrey Jeans. And y'all only got 2 places to go. What you mean, girl? So I was like, yeah, Chelsea, pump your brakes. Yeah, she is following you, and I absolutely believe it. But it also ain't that many options, okay? Then Allison looks at Madison, and she tells Chelsea, I feel like you've been making some bad choices lately, and I'm starting to worry. And she said, I'll be happy to assist you with giving you a taste of something you might miss. I said, your little fast, wide-eyed, crazy-eyed ass. Okay. And so then they decide so then I was confused, and thank you, Elaine, because we was on the X talking about it today. But I said, didn't Chelsea and Madison say that they was gonna go because they was supposed to be leaving to run off to Chelsea's bed like they like to do, only to turn around and sit down and decide to eat after you run into Allison and see her there? How did that make sense? I guess maybe because they had nowhere else to go, because could they have not ordered the takeout? I don't know. I don't know. It was just questions in my mind. Anyway, Madison questions, well, what the hell is going on with this crazy bitch? Okay. And so Chelsea tries to say, things were not that serious, that Allison is like trying to make it. And I said, well, you literally was on, I'm going to say, depression watch. Okay. A few weeks ago over Allison. And just because you found Madison, please not forget that you were absolutely up that girl, but you were hollering at your mama, acting real nutty. She said, she explains to Madison that Allison is the one that shut her down. And so she moved on, and clearly Allison hasn't. And so Madison said, well, she sounds a little, twisted. And so Chelsea turns to see crazy-eyed Allison staring at her from across the room. Okay. And so Madison questions Chelsea whether, like, do you still have feelings for that crazy-eyed girl over there? Because yeah, she don't look healthy. I don't know if I want to, be mixed up in that. And Chelsea said, look, there is nothing there. And said, but I hope that you're still interested after you didn't see this crazy girl over here. And learning that clearly I've had a bad breakup. And Madison tells her, no, I'm happy that I met you. And Chelsea's like, oh, we were meant to be, and all that jazz. While Allison is sitting back watching them share a kiss. Just all right. So then we see at Martin, he done ran off to the park. He's calling Marcel, complaining that, he caught Samantha with KKK Kenny. And so Malone tells him that the department, the reason why they weren't able to get the, surveillance on her, is because the department is understaffed. And Martin said, I don't give a damn what y'all got. Get people watching my house right now. So back at the house, Smitty is apologizing to Samantha and says, look, I know that we always promised to keep you guys safe. And when y'all came into the family, and Samantha is now talking now, literally my notes say now, understands there are all sorts of random strangers that could be dangerous out there. She said they discovered that before they got there, and Tyrell should have known better to bring KKK Kenny over to the house for a chess game. It wasn't just Tyrell, sis. Okay, but I'm gonna let you live because you came to the realization on your own. So she admits to going out after Martin warning her, and then engaging with KKK Kenny at the park. And Smitty tells her, well, you should have known better as well. All right. And Samantha goes on about, yeah, I should have. All the lectures I've listened to, public safety classes we had to take at school. And I threw that out the window because I'm young and I'm dumb. Let's call it what it is. And so she's like, yeah, I learned this all in school. And so I wonder where all that went when KK Kenny came up to me. Out the window. Because somebody probably gave you a smile and some attention. So Smitty tells her, you were just being kind and trying to help. And Samantha gets emotional and says that, no, that man could have grabbed me and I shouldn't have let him get that close. And I absolutely agree. And you have every reason to sit back and thank God that you're okay. But you should sit there and feel scared and think about all the things that could have possibly happened to you so you don't make the same mistake. So no, I'm gonna need you to sit in your for a little bit, Samantha. Don't let her out that house, okay? Don't let her out that house. And Tyrell shouldn't be either, because don't think he ain't out here being hard-headed. But anyway, she said that it all hit her when Martin showed up so angry, and Smitty tells her Martin wasn't angry with her and asks, well, like, have you seen KKK Kenny before? And Samantha explains, I haven't, but apparently it's the same guy who played chess with Tyrell. And apparently he and Martin clearly had a beef before he ever came to the house. And so Smitty realizes that's why Martin called the police to protect them from KKK Kenny. And so Samantha's like, can you just please tell me what's going on? And Smitty said, look, I don't know my damn self. Help me help you. Let's help each other because we both don't know what's going on, okay? And she was like, well, you wouldn't tell me anyway. And she's like, I'm tired of being in the dark, especially since it affects our life as well. And so then she scolds Smitty for threatening to leave Martin and says, they don't do that. And so Smitty apologizes that she had to hear that. But Samantha realizes, but you're not sorry for what you said. And Smitty asks, look, can you just give me some time to figure things out? Because this is some adult type stuff and your daddy is on my last nerve. So can you stay out of it? Okay. And let us figure that out. And so then Smitty gets on a phone call and calls Jacob, of course, and tells him that, basically come over because he could use their help. So then we go see Vernon, who's back at home, leaving a voicemail for Anita, telling her how much he misses her. And now he's lost without you. Can't help myself. How does it feel? I can't hear my notes, y'all. I told you I was sick. But anyway, y'all know what I mean. He's lost without her. All right. So Jacob lets Ashley know because we know he's gotten the call from Smitty. So he's like, look, I got to run off. And so meanwhile, Haley is up there ordering up the whole restaurant for this ghost baby. Okay. Shout out to the ex-user that gave the ghost baby. Okay. That's where I got that from. So Ashley says something and Haley pretends, oh, I'm so embarrassed because, my baby likes to eat like Bill. And so Ashley's like, I don't even think you're supposed to be having cravings already. That don't really start to the second trimester. And so Haley said, look, I believe that my baby is advanced like her daddy or his daddy, whatever. And they're a little prodigy. And Ashley was like, it don't work like that, but whatever. So finally they were literally across the room having this conversation. So finally they stopped talking across the room and Haley decides to come over to Ashley's table. And she's like, look, I just really want to thank you for being kind, even somewhat friendly, despite everything that's happened. Ashley says to her, you married my best friend's father. And so Haley reminds her, well, Naomi was my best friend as well. That's the point. That's the point, Haley. And that's how stupid you are. That went. You didn't even catch it. It went way over. Okay. And so Ashley tells her, so you should understand why they're so hurt by your choices. Haley claims, well, I didn't choose this. I didn't have anyone before Bill. Ashley said, no. You had all of us at one point. And so she said, well, Bill has been my rock, and it cost him to love me, and that love never wavered. And Ashley said, well, I hope for your sake that it lasts. Okay. So Haley's still being delusional, hoping that one day we can all be friends again. And Ashley lets her know, long ago and so far. Okay, that's long ago. That's never happening again. So Ashley lets her know that that was a long time ago, before she chose Bill to be the center of her universe and left them out in the cold. So Haley tells Ashley that, losing her friends was the worst part of her falling in love. And Ashley has to remind Haley that Bill is Naomi's daddy, and some people should just be off limits. Haley does what she does best and is continuing to defend her and Bill getting together. And Ashley asks her, did you ever try to stop it? Like, did you ever stop and think about like what you were doing to your friends, to the people around you? And she said, I think that you planned this out. I think that you planned everything. So then she brings up how, you didn't even give the marriage time before getting pregnant. And she said, do you know how Naomi and Chelsea feel about it? So Haley's like, look, I don't think anybody should be concerned with my uterus. But she lets Ashley know that, her and Naomi did call a truce after Bill's stroke and said that, her baby was meant to be. Her false fetus was meant to be. Okay. And Ashley accuses her of planning her pregnancy. And Haley said, well, I can't imagine a baby more welcomed and wanted than the one that I'm carrying. And then takes a jab at her and Derek and says, not all of us can move at a snail's pace like you guys. So Ashley's like, okay, you got that. You got that one off. Okay. I said, well, you know what? Me and Derek broke up anyway. And Haley said, well, don't worry about it. You'll find love again because you deserve it. And I said, girl. So then Martin, but basically Ashley is hip to Haley's game. Okay. So then we see Martin show up at Bill's, letting him know that KK Kenny got to Samantha. He realizes that everyone and anyone in his life could be in danger. So Bill wants to know, well, how did things play out? And then Martin admits, yeah, I hit them. Okay. And says, and KK Kenny got off lucky compared to what I could have did. And so Bill said, look, let me fix it. And Martin said, no, because you were supposed to fix things 2 years ago and it never happened. And then he brings up, Bill said, look, keep your composure because you got a lot to lose. And Martin tells him his life got put on the back burner when Haley got knocked up and he stroked out. I said, ooh, that was Martin, that was some coof. So he said, look, and my dad and Martin says, and my granddaddy been preoccupied with Anita out of town. And this is my problem. And he ain't never going to respect me unless I handle it. So I'm in charge now. And so Bill said, well, what's the plan, Martin? What do you plan to do? So Bill wants to know what's Martin's plan. And Martin really ain't got one or won't share it with him. But he said that, there's no more outsourcing. He plans to do it himself and said he wants to see KK Kenny unalive. All right. So Bill asked if he talked to Smitty about it. And Martin says, I can't do that. Why would I do that? So Bill's like offering to make a few phone calls. And Martin said, nah, it's a little too late. I'm on it. Daggone it. And I'm going to get KK Kenny's ass. All right. So that's when Jacob shows up at Martin and, Smitty's house. And he's there talking with Smitty and Samantha. Samantha still wanting to be all up in the mix, but eventually they send her to her room. And Smitty reveals that he just learned that someone is stalking his kids. So he tells Jacob that he don't know what's going on, and Martin still won't tell him nothing. And so he thinks Martin's secrets have now put them in a dangerous situation. And Smitty is still tripping on the fact Martin put him under surveillance and didn't even bother to tell him. And then he lets Jacob know that, I kind of gave him like a little low-key ultimatum. And so Jacob lets him know, look, y'all gonna get through it. And I understand what it's like being with a Dupree, okay? Myself. And he said, but don't make no decisions about your marriage while you're upset. And so Smitty said, look, I just need to find out what KK Kenny is stalking their family, why KK Kenny is stalking their family, and if it has anything to do with what happened with Martin and Marcel. And so Jacob offers, well, can I go talk to Samantha and Tyrell as their cousins, so they don't feel like they're being interrogated, to try to get a description. And Smitty wants to, and so he's like, well, let me talk to Martin first. So hopefully I can find out what's going on. And I said, no, Smitty, because you already know he ain't gonna tell you. Like, you ain't figured that out by now? Whatever. So we see Martin down at Offrey Jeans now. And he's on the phone asking someone if he can count on them to handle whatever he needs to handle, which I feel like pretty confident we know what that is. And says that, come meet me right now down at the Offrey Jeans. And I said, well, so back at Uptown, Chelsea and Madison are just doting on each other when Allison shows up and throws a clip on the table stating that, Chelsea left it the last time they hung out. And so she goes on to talk about the last time that we were together and how wild it was, and how, I was so surprised that no one called the cops. It was just so wild. And so Chelsea says, I have the police on speed dial. Please go away. Allison tells her, you should, because you never know who's lurking in the shadows. I said, oh, okay. And so when Chelsea goes to take the clip back, Allison snatches it and says, this is my final memento. And so Madison tells Chelsea, that scared me. And Chelsea tries to convince her, oh, she's harmless. And I said, no, she's not. No, she's not. It's giving a little Leslie tease. It's giving Leslie tease a little bit. Oh, Jesus, I'm so happy this is the last scene, because, y'all, I was really trying to tough it out. I'm losing my voice, I think. So Bill goes to report back to Vernon and share that KKK Kenny made contact with Samantha. And so Vernon tells him, look, give that man whatever he wants so he can go away. And Bill lets him know that, nah, I wish we could. I thought I had it covered. But Martin came in and said, nah, he handling himself. And he isn't willing to share his plan with him. And so Vernon said, look, I know that means it's dangerous and destructive, and violence is not the answer. And so he tells Bill they need to come up with a better plan before things get worse. And yeah, y'all, that was pretty much episode 89 of Beyond the Gates. Drop in the comments and let me know what you thought. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you comment. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you're following us on all the platforms. That's the TikTok, IG, Facebook, Blue Sky, and the X. And yeah, let me get off here, because I feel my voice fading, which is a terrible feeling, especially when you talk as much as I do, okay? And hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow with my voice being back a little bit. But love y'all. Have a good night. And I'll catch you for episode 90. Bye-bye.